did. For the stars of heaven and Orion shall not cause their light to shine. The sun darkened in his going forth, and the moonlight shall not shine. And I will punish the world for their evil, and the wicked for their iniquity. And I will cause to cease the arrogancy of the proud, and lay low the haughtiness of the terrible.
Okay, I got the title card straightened out there at the last second. It's part 46, verse 1. Chapter 21, verse 1. And I guess in the official tally, this is the 5th of 7 burdens. And, let's read about it. The burden of the desert of the sea. As whirlwinds in the south pass through, so it cometh from the desert, from a terrible land. A grievous vision, or as I prefer to say, a grievous vision. I'm just kidding. A grievous vision is declared unto me. The treacherous dealer dealeth treacherously. I say that because I oddly have in a song, just recorded forever. I believe I say the word grievous, which is funny. The treacherous dealer dealeth treacherously, and the spoiler spoileth. Go up, O Elam, besiege, O Media. All the sighing thereof have I made to cease. Therefore are my loins filled with pain. Pangs have taken hold upon me, as the pangs of a woman that travaileth. I was bowed down at the hearing of it. I was dismayed at the seeing of it. My heart panted, fearfulness affrighted me. The night of my pleasure hath he turned unto fear unto me. Hold on a second here. This is all part of the same idea here, but let's read further a bit. Well, yeah, I remember it's. I keep thinking if this is one of those passages where you feel like, hey, maybe if I read more, there'll be more context to help me understand this, and it's, as I recall, not particularly so. It's the Watchmen thing, yeah. So, anyways, I think it's the first direct reference to the Medes and Persians. In verse 4, what was it? 3? Go up, O Elam. Elamites. Elam is part of the Persian Empire. One of the core nations of the Persian Empire. Because by the time the Persians come on the scene, they are already a significant power because they are the result of not just the Medes, not just the Persians, but the Medes, the Persians, and Elam, and they have a bit of a. It's not the Persian Empire was not just it's the Persians, the Medes, and the Persians, not Babylon, not Assyria. Well, Assyria was technically mostly a city-state. It was Nineveh, and they had a larger area of influence, no doubt. I guess some not all the ancient empires are named after the city-states, but Persia was, I think, bigger geographically, certainly, than either Babylon or Assyria before. At least their starting geography, I should say. I mean, as far as, like I said, seemed like there was more to begin with. At least in my limited understanding of how, at least the way it looks from the outside, and from my limited history on that, as far as like, I'm just basing it on my rough recollection. Okay. And so, the burden of the desert of the sea. The desert of the sea, like I said, it is, it says before that oftentimes they called the Egyptian Nile the sea. And the same thing with the Euphrates in flood. Because when they would flood, they would refer to it as the sea. And the sea, because the Nile every year would overflow its banks and deposit silt and thus fertilize the land. It's one of the reasons that made Egypt a power, is they had the fertile Nile Delta. And also, there was the Fertile Crescent in the, I don't know if the Fertile Crescent just refers to the I just want to Google it. Like, what the Fertile Crescent? That term historically, I forgot if that referred specifically just to the Tigris-Euphrates River Valley, or is it referred to that whole? There's a actual fertile crescent shape somewhere in the world, and I forgot exactly where it is. I thought the Fertile Crescent was right there, or if that's like something entirely different. Like, no, that's in Kansas or something. I don't remember. Sorry. I'm not going to look it up because it's not important. The Euphrates also would flood. It was referred to as the sea. In my Bible, there was a note that said, because right before the study, I was running late today. I'm like, there's a certain amount of time that has to pass from when I wake up to when, and I overslept today because I was up till 2 a.m. unnecessarily. But, I need a half hour. So if I get up a certain time, I can't do it any sooner than a half hour later, because otherwise you'll be looking at a zombie. Why did I mention that? Boy, it's a tough one, Paul. Tough one. Why did I mention that? Whatever. I'll just continue, and it'll probably be obvious at some point. I looked it over, because I had extra time, because I was sitting ready, and I got to wait for 10 minutes so I can wake up. So I was looking at the passage. I don't always do that, but I knew it was, there were a few things I wanted to peek at, such as, like, is there what's the assessment of this idea of the desert of the sea? And it's generally considered to be Babylon. Because, again, they have the Euphrates River is like the sea, and it is like the sea in the desert. But also, it's like the desert of the sea, because though it is a sea from time to time, most of the time it's the desert. You know what I mean? And it's the part of the sea that becomes a desert, so to speak. So, meaning when the river's not in flood, the area that would flood would be the desert of the sea. As whirlwinds in the south pass through, whirlwinds in the south. Now, I don't know exactly how it works in their location, but I see whirlwinds out here. I live in a, rural area, open rural area. Like, there's no trees except on properties. I live in a farming area, so, it's interesting because, I always want to live in a rural area, but I kind of always imagine myself living more in the woods. But, I've been out sometimes and just like looking down in the valley. There's a particular valley, and whirlwinds come out of it, like little whirlwinds, like sometimes as big as like a house. I've seen some pretty impressive little dust devils, out there. That's what it looks like to me. Now, I don't know what kind of tornadoes they have in Egypt, but I don't think particularly, or in the Euphrates River Valley. I don't know exactly how they come out of the south, but I think about when I see whirlwinds, it is kind of this mysterious thing. When you see a whirlwind, because I never used to see them. I lived in the suburbs. If you grew up in the city, you'll never see one. You may see an eddy behind something, but like a genuine organic little whirlwind, like a little tornado, like kind of hopping its way across the countryside, which I see every once in a while. I see one every couple of years, sometimes more often than that. And I've seen pretty big ones where it was like, that almost looks like it's getting ready to be a tornado. I mean, these are basically eddies of the wind, but some of them are pretty amazing. Like, they'll just go, like, I remember one, I watched it come from down the way and kind of cross over the road. And then, I followed them several times. One time I was driving and I saw a whirlwind out here, because there's just nothing. What it is at times, especially when there's no corn, the wind is so unimpeded that it forms these little whirlwinds and stuff. So, in an empty So it says something to me. It's like when you have whirlwinds forming, it almost makes me think that if this is cropland, it's a, it is an image like when you think about, I do think about like when you think of like tumbleweeds blowing through town as being the sort of American universal symbolic representation of desertedness. You know what I mean? Of like, if you want to portray an old, dusty old town that's kind of in the West, maybe not deserted even, but just, you put a tumbleweed and it's just kind of iconic. And whirlwinds in the South, what does that represent as they pass through? I don't know. I think it means seemingly out of nowhere, seemingly like magic. Where do whirlwinds come from? That's what I think. Am I like, where did this thing come from? It just formed out of nowhere. It just seems like it naturally happened right there. Like it sprung up out of nothing. And I think that's the kind of idea here. Because like, where do whirlwinds, as whirlwinds in the South pass through, so it comes from the desert. Well, the main point about this is the whirlwinds come from the desert. The whirlwinds come out of the desert from a terrible land. So it's talking about the Medes and the Persians coming out of the desert like whirlwinds. I probably said way more than that we needed to hear. A grievous vision, for those of you playing at home, is declared unto me, the treacherous dealer dealeth treacherously. Not very surprising. Treacherous dealers deal treacherously. It's not good, but not surprising. You know what I mean? There's treachery. A lot of times people are treacherous, and we put our trust in them. A treacherous person who's looking to undermine you, looking to be an enemy, secretly. Looking to secretly, and I believe, wasn't Babylon, as I recall, Babylon was taken, the night Babylon was taken, Belteshazzar had the famous dinner scene, and with the writing on the wall that Daniel interpreted, mene, mene, tekel, upharsin, numbered, weighed, and wanting. And part of what happened was, I believe there was treachery involved in that the city of Babylon was protected by the river itself, like the moat, and that someone had diverted the river so that the Persians could just enter in through the riverbed. And maybe even that, the burden of the desert of the sea, you know what I mean? As whirlwinds pass through unimpeded from the desert, so the army will pass through unimpeded over the desert of the river into Babylon. And it's actually a century or so in the future. But you can read about it in Daniel. I don't think that they mentioned that the treachery. I forget if that's mentioned in Daniel. It's been a while since I did Daniel. We'll have to do it. The spoiler spoileth. The spoilers, that is basically looting and pillaging, spoiling, taking. Go up, O Elam. Besiege, O Media. All the sighing have I made to cease. And I could see how that would be. If the Medes and Elam, which is the Persians, all of them together, if they are going to besiege Babylon, it might be quite a task to undertake, and so there could be like an occasion for sighing, like, how are we going to take this city? Boy, Babylon sure is tough, man. I don't know if we bit off more than we can chew here. Here we are we're at Babylon, and we can even hear them partying in the city. They're so unworried by us out here. And it definitely makes sense. Like, why would Elam be sighing? Well, because they've accomplished what they wanted, which is they got in the city. I mean, as far as this is the prophecy of their success. You know what I mean? Elam their sighing is ceasing because they have success. But it's a moment of terror and destruction for Babylon. Therefore my loins are filled with pain. Pangs have taken hold upon me. As a woman that travaileth. Now that should be a familiar. Anyone who's familiar with the Bible, especially the New Testament, should know that this is another one of those things, the prophetic themes. And I've mentioned this because I've been studying the Bible a long time, and if you study it for a while, you will begin to pick up on prophetic themes. One of the early ones I picked up on was this idea of pains as of a woman that travails. When Jesus described the end times, he used the analogy of a woman giving birth. The prophets, the apostles in the writings of Paul use, I don't know about the other apostolic writings like James. I don't think James specifically mentions anything like that, but it might. You know what I mean? Because it's such a common thing for them to mention. It's like when someone wants to talk about sudden fear, sudden trouble, because, a woman's pregnancy is kind of an interesting thing to use as an analogy because she gets very obviously pregnant, but everything seems pretty much okay and fine. She doesn't seem sick or anything. But then when the time comes to deliver the baby, it's like, boom, it's just there. And there's no escaping it. This is the thing. It's the inevitability of it. Childbirth is like this inevitability thing. The process begins and the process ends. It doesn't always end well, but it happens. Pregnancies end. And it could end with a birth. It could end with a breech birth. It could end up with the death of the mother, the death of the child, or the death of both. It's a dangerous thing. It has been historically, and only in recent centuries has that changed with the dramatic decrease in infant mortality and female death in pregnancy. And so the prophets often use the idea of the woman's pain in connection with the culmination of prophetic events. Because like a pregnancy, it has, you can see it coming. You can see it coming. And there's a long time where it looks like it could be at any time. I know because I've watched this happen to my wife 8 times, and I've participated in the birth of 8 children. I think that says, by the time I got to the 8th one, I felt pretty, we were pretty bossy with the doctor, because we felt confident, and we're an older, I'm looking at a doctor who's younger than me. You know what I mean? He knows more, granted, but it's not about my wife. He doesn't know more about my wife or how she likes to give birth, and, we got to do it this way. It's like, no. When I was 19, I didn't know, I wasn't married when I was 19. When I was 21, or I should say 23. When our first child was born, we were 23. I didn't know, she got an episiotomy without our consent. It just happened. I remember wanting to object. Nowadays, if they tried to put a knife anywhere near my wife, I would stop them. I would be like, no, you're not doing it. No. We do not consent. You have your right to choose medical treatment. That's one thing I hate about the last year was involuntary medical treatment. Everyone had to go through the same treatment, whether they wanted it or not, whether they believed it was good for them or not. Because that's the thing. Usually with medicine, I get the doctor said, well, you could have the operate. I showed my doctor my broken toe. He's like, that's not bad. I've seen worse. And there's no guarantee the surgery is going to go right. I learned that about my nose. Right, my nose operated on, and I can breathe. But this morning I pulled giant scabs out of there so I could breathe. But once I do pull those giant scabs out, I breathe fine. So, but it's painful every day. I'd rather have pain than not breathing, to tell you the truth. I like the ease I have of breathing, and the change is preferable. And I don't mind my nose hurting all the time. I just put it in the stack of all the other physical pains I live with on a daily basis. No big deal. It's not that bad. It's not. I'm not trying to elicit anyone's pity. But the woman with travail motif, whatever. The prophetic idea. It goes to the idea. It's like she's pregnant, big, and at the end, we're always like, it could be any day. Sometimes they're a week, sometimes they're a week late, sometimes they're a week early, sometimes they make them much as 2 weeks late, or 10. They mean as much as 2 weeks late or 2 weeks early sometimes, because different gestation periods. The idea that the gestation period is uniform is obviously every woman's a little different, every baby's a little different, a little bit, but there's a range. There's a range. but it's before and after. And so same thing with prophecy and end time events. Even the end times of Isaiah's time, like meaning he sees the end of Babylon. I was thinking about the other day, it's like we're kind of at the end of the world right now, just as they were in other times. Even if Jesus doesn't return, it is very likely we are living in the end of this world, in a sense. And I just mean in the sense of our civilization. Because there are just too many fools in charge. And that will continue. That will increase probably as part of the society decays. I was telling my wife the other day, I should have gone into politics. I shouldn't have quit. Because I kind of, as a conscientious person with a strong ethical, impulse, I think I don't think I ever would have wanted to be president or anything, but as senator, I think I'd like to be in the debating. The senator where you can talk as long as you want, not the House where you get 5 minutes. I'm not a 5-minute guy. I could be the king of filibusters. I don't even need the phone book. You know what I mean? I could talk for like 8 hours up there. Easily. I could talk for days. You know what I mean? Just come in and someone needs to spell me. Just get 6 people that can come in and talk for an hour and get me 6 hours, and I can come back and do 18. Not really. That's a joke. I mean, I'm not. I'm making fun of myself. Actually, not bragging. Just so you know, that's not bragging. Anyways, so the point is, as society deteriorates, our elected leaders become poorer and poorer quality. People who get up there for office, I'm starting to see people who really just should be considered joke candidates showing up, and winning victories and being taken seriously by actual segments, actual congressional districts full of tens of thousands of thinking people. You know what I mean? Tens of thousands of thinking people are sending garbage people to Washington. So, and this happens, and what I'm saying, why do you think that could be the end of the world? Well, it could be. I'm just saying, because if we this can be so badly mismanaged, the society collapses. And it doesn't mean that the world ends, so to speak, but the world the world I grew up in, never coming back and may never be the same again. And it can go really bad before we settle down into a new world, so to speak. Especially if they get into especially if you add into it like, oh, well, we'll just have a small nuclear war. Because even a small nuclear war would devastate the planet and definitely end civilization. Meaning end this civilization world order. There'd still be billions of people on the planet. And there's still humanity will go on. But the world we know, it would disrupt things. Some things would keep going, but many things would be lost. Because you're only going to be able, when you transition like some sort of historic boundary where there's like a major event, a lot of things in the old world get destroyed. It always happens just based on time. But sometimes events like tragic and destructive events will accelerate this. And the thing is, this is known. And I constantly run into people online who are accelerationists. People who believe in accelerating things to sort of bring about change. But they're fools. Because I'm telling you, if you're an accelerationist, you're a fool. Because you will accelerate only the destruction. There is no new world coming into that we're just going to step into. It would take generations to rebuild some kind of new civilizational order. And, I don't want to go into too much detail about it, because it's mostly my own thought and suspicions and speculation. So it's not really good material for the study. As interesting as people might think my opinion is on the subject, it's not real. It's just my opinion. I'm not saying we are, but I'm saying we could be. It also could be, we could be on the very edge of the end times. That's another thing. I mean, it is 2021. We're almost at the 2,000-year anniversary from when Jesus left. And that is a significant date to me. I do think, I have no date, but I do have a date range. It's like somewhere between 2027 and 2030 something. Maybe like a 7-year like spread in there somewhere is the beginning of the end times, maybe. Maybe. I hope it isn't, and because I feel like I'm scrambling, trying to finish my works. I wanted a longer lifetime. I wanted to live 120 years. I don't know if like I said, I don't. Do I think the end times are going to? I'm more certain that our civilization is going to collapse than the end times are going to start. Let me put it that way. I'm much more certain that this civilization we've gotten used to is maybe not collapse, maybe too grandiose a word, but we could say diminish significantly. You know, based on what we did, we may become a base power. Again, we used to be. It's not a big deal. We can still be the Americans. We don't have to be the freaking boss of the world. You know that? We just be the tough-ass Americans who have their own country and don't rule over everybody else. You know? But they have their own country. You know? I don't know what that world will be like. You know, because there are other powers that would seek to dominate the rest of the world. Everyone's so anxious to get rid of America as the dominant world power. I'm sure you guys will love China. Yeah. Oh, no. Is dominant world power? Oh, yeah, that sounds great. And it's stupid because they're not strong enough to take it. It's being given to them. And the reason I say all that is because I do feel like it's like a pregnancy thing. We have so many things like, you know, for years I've said I don't think the immorality is significantly above what we've seen in the past generations. That's changed. I don't think I officially said so. I'm like, I feel like we're getting there. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been creepy stuff. I mean, you know, if you don't think in the Roman Empire they were castrating people and turning them into ladies, you know, I remember there was a movie where they suggested that's something kind of what they did. You know, I don't think that, you know, so it's like, I don't think that there's like some immorality, they've discovered anything new. This is just the usual decadent crap that comes out in decadent societies that have too much money, too much time, too little, you know, need to struggle. You know what I mean? If you're too busy worried about where your next meals come from, you don't start worrying about whether or not you should have breast implants. You know? I mean, for a man or, you know, I think it's for either sex, it's absolutely ridiculous. I'll tell you what, you know, surgery to reduce, or like if someone has them removed and they want to have something to even them out, you know, absolutely, cosmetic stuff like that, whatever. I mean, I'm not judging him. Let every man's conscience be his guide. I mean, purely for vanity. You know, someone who's just trying to get a set of knockers. Come on. It's always just kind of embarrassing. I feel embarrassed for the people that do it, is what I mean. You know, I just feel embarrassed for them. Because everyone can see it. Like, your tits change size, like, every other year, you know. It's just, okay, I'm not going to say anything. You know, I'm not going to say anything. But that's the kind of thing humans always get up to. But is it, I'll tell you, we are coming up, let's say, if we haven't exceeded the immorality of prior generations, we are getting close to matching just about everything. Meaning, where you could say it's never gotten worse. And at that point, you are at places where civilizations fall apart, where world orders collapse, like the Bronze Age world order. The Bible doesn't even really mention that a whole world ended. The late Bronze Age world, which was like a global civilization. Not like ours at all, of course. But I mean, you know, Babylon, you know, there'd be like old Babylon, not the Neo-Babylon. Because, you know, you understand, the Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylon we're talking about here is Neo-Babylon. It is not the old Babylon of Hammurabi and the Sumerians and all that. It's the new Babylon, Neo-Babylonian Empire. The old Babylon, because there was an old and a new, Babylon was like an old enemy. And so that's why Babylon comes up in Revelation again, I think, and not Assyria. And plus Assyria, by the time, well, you know, Babylon wasn't much of a nation either back then. But there was still something about it, something in the prophetically that immortalized it. you know. And so, you know, like it says, you know, Jesus referred to this like in Matthew 24, Mark 13, about as pain upon a woman with child, so shall it come upon all the inhabitants of the land. How does he say? How does he say it exactly? Well, one particular one, he says, you know, that's why I'm running through the song in my head, but because I have it memorized. It's like, you know, I don't want to start. If I start from the beginning, though, it could take me forever to get to the right passage. You know what's funny, though? As soon as I tried to think of Mark 13, I immediately thought of this. This is the song that came into my head. Men, brethren, and fathers, hearken. The God of glory appeared unto Father Abraham when he was in Mesopotamia, before he came to Haran. Because the original melody for Mark 13, and as he went out of the temple, was actually supposed to be for Acts 7, which is the speech of Stephen. One of his disciples said to him, you know, you see all these buildings. I just go there. Let's bring up Mark 13. I got to sneeze. Sorry. Well, it's good that wasn't messy. Sorry about the sniffing. I want to just... All right, well, you know... This is... You know what? I can't blow my nose on the flag, all right? Sorry. I'm not superstitious or anything. An old sock will do. Sorry I didn't mute that. Sorry I didn't mute that. So I haven't muted anything in weeks. Sorry. All right. I haven't been that sniffly either. Mark 13. Particular verse I want. Wow. It's funny. I gotta just feel so incompetent, man. I went for that and I'm like, oh, where is it? I can't find. I'm just gonna have Travail. Travail. Not Travail. Travail gives me. Alright, good. Oh, that's Micah. You know what? Oh, I remember. It's not that. I remember now. Well, the travail is a prophetic thing. Now I remember, these are the beginning of sorrows. That's why it threw me off. In Mark 13, it doesn't say travail, like, directly. It says that when the wars and rumors of wars and all these things would come upon us, that wasn't the end yet. But there were certain things, and these are the beginning of sorrows in Mark 13, which is verse, I'll give you the verse. Verse 8. There should be famine and troubles. These are the beginnings of sorrows. Sorrows is labor. It's the technical term for labor. I'm not going to bring the whole... There you go. Sorrows. That is the term for a woman going into the pain of labor. And I want to at least point out that one spot. So, it's the motive, the theme of pregnancy and delivery. It gets thrown into prophecy, obviously. Because what happens is things get... It gets conceived like something bad. It needs to happen to fix, but it's not ready yet. You know what I mean? You know, like, it makes me think of that passage where here I want to look at another verse in the Bible. I don't want to just refer to it. I want to find it. I'm just trying to. I'm trying to remember. Well, that's not too bad. I'm trying to think of like. There's a part where it says, oh boy, too many references in the dang. I was looking based on the word fulfilled, and I wanted the to the iniquity should be fulfilled idea. I need to put the word iniquity in there. Oh, no wonder. I looked at it first and it didn't find it because I put it in as phrase. I need to put it in as all. And, all right. Come on. You know what? I'm all right. Oh, here we go. Huh. This is not what I wanted. I looked at it. Genesis 15 and 16 says, like, in the fourth generation they shall come hither again, meaning out of Egypt. It's a prophecy of them going into Egypt. And it says, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. All right, and in Genesis, there's an example of the idea of filling up of iniquity. Because I was looking, I couldn't remember the phraseology used in the King James. But there's this idea that the iniquity must come to the full. See here, Genesis 15:16. Thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace, blah, 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 15:16. But in the fourth generation thou shalt come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. Meaning 4 generations from now, it would be full. It's like a pregnancy. It has to wait. It has to be fulfilled. So it's been conceived that the Amorites must be punished. But they haven't fulfilled everything they need to fulfill to get to the moment where that happens. You know what I mean? And that's what I was looking for. The idea of fulfilling iniquity. Sin. Because sin and evil can also be like this pregnancy. Meaning, all the bad we do, if our sins are not covered by the blood of Christ, you know what I mean? If we're just walk around the world unmindful of Jesus Christ and the righteous sacrifice which He made to purge our sins, if we're alienated in our minds from the reconciliation offered to us in God through Him, right? And we're just going about our lives, we are reserving for ourselves and storing up for ourselves wrath against the day of wrath, sin against the day of judgment. I mean, because we are just, everything we do, it's like a baby being pregnant. It just feeds the baby. All the misdeeds, and it's not like, like I've said in the past, it's like if you do a murder, it's not like helping a grandma across the street the next day lessens the murder. That's not how it works. You know what I mean? That's why we need Christ. You cannot work your way out of sin debt, because sin debt does not get worked off. Because you can't. I can't perform good deeds to make up for raping and pillaging. It just doesn't work. You can't. It can't be the basis of reconciliation. It can be auxiliary to reconciliation, meaning you can be reconciled and then go and make up for it. Like you should, like if you stole money, the scriptures say, you should restore it. And that's even if you're a Christian, even if you're forgiven. Sometimes it's, I don't want people to be burdened forever. Like if you went to prison for something and you paid your debt to society, you don't have to go back and pay more again, unless if it's possible for you. I don't think that it's necessary. Each situation has to be judged on its own individual merits. What is required, what is the right thing. But certainly, we are reserving to ourselves judgment because we live in sin. We don't always do things as bad as murder, but none of the sins we do are just covered up. And the positive good we do is of no long-lasting consequence. Like, what do we do for God if we do something kind to a human being, other than just fulfilling his pleasure? But as far as, like, have I bettered God's existence? Have I somehow, brought a little sunshine into his life? I don't think so. Here we go. So, my heart panted, fearfulness affrighted me. The night of my pleasure had to turn into fear. When you go to bed, it should be like, but instead it's like worry or fear, whatever. You know what I mean? Nothing worse than spoiling your sleep. I always hate it when my sleep gets spoiled. And not only did I get to bed last night late, I couldn't turn my brain off. And so I think I lay there for an hour and then thought to myself, from time to time, like, why do these weird things keep, it was almost like I'd have weird conversations in my head with nobody. It's probably from being overtired. Prepare the table, watch in the watchtower. Eat, drink, arise, ye princes, and anoint the shield. Anoint the shield. Well, oil up the shield. Now, it could be either purpose one. The first thing that occurred to me, of course, was that it was some sort of ceremonial thing. Like, you anoint your shield, like, bless it so it'll be good, It's very positive. Because there are all kinds of things. Troops go out, they have prayers for them before they go out to fight, and usually. When you're going to battle, you get ready to potentially die. They still prepare you for that, I assume. In some ways, they try to, and spiritually also, just kind of understand. It's like, this could be it. Over something stupid people in Washington want you to do. But the other possibility is it could be like practical, like oil up the shield because an oily shield is better. Grease your shield before the battle. Could be just what you do. I mean, you don't want to let the enemy have any purchase on it. The end where I hold it, it's nice and dry, but the front end is all greasy. Maybe. I'd want it to be like, all jagged so I could hurt people with it, I guess. If I was in a battle and had a shield, I would definitely want to be smiting with that shield. Let's go, that's another weapon. So, in the midst of this, he sees he's feeling this pregnancy in himself, like a woman with child. And it's not saying I feel a pregnancy in myself, but I'm saying prophetically, because I know the way this pregnancy thing works, the analogy is not used by accident. It does mean like things are coming up. He says, that's how I feel in my spirit. I feel like a woman who's got an inevitable date with destiny here, and I'm pained like it. I'm in the distress. He's distressed like he's giving birth. And it's not even his thing, but he's having an empathetic reaction to other people's pain. And I look at that. The prophecy requires a bit of empathy. The prophets were very empathetic people. They would have to often do empathetic things. By that I mean they would like Isaiah walk around naked. So they will go around naked. I'm walking around naked because they're all going to go around naked. I'm all pained because they're going to be all pained. When I see what's going to happen. And this is the enemies of God's people he's even talking about. It still doesn't. Why should anyone rejoice in seeing people suffer? Prepare the table. The table is the table of dining, eating. Remember, they were taken in the midst of feasting. But also, but it's part of like normal life. You eat. You get into the watchtower. You drink. You get everything. You get things ready. I see a watchtower, and we mean, let's have dinner. Well, just because we're having dinner, we still have a watchtower. I mean, we have, we continue to put up reasonable defenses. You know, it's just a normal night. But I think but the call is, it's not normal. For thus said the Lord unto me, go set a watchman. Let him declare what he seeth. And he saw a chariot with a couple of horsemen. A chariot of asses, and a chariot of camels. And he hearkened diligently with much heed. And he cried, a lion, my lord. I stand continually upon the watchtower in the daytime. And I am set in my ward whole nights. And behold, here cometh a chariot of men with a couple of horsemen. And he answered and said, Babylon is fallen, and all the graven images of her gods hath he broken to the ground. O my threshing, the corn of my floor, that which I have heard of the Lord of hosts, O God, the God of Israel, have I declared unto you. And 11 begins a new burden. The burden of Duma, which is Edom. Duma, I forgot if that's their city. It's just another name for Edom, because they live in the land of Idumea. Just like the tribe of Judah became known as the Jews, Edom became Duma. And also, I don't remember. It's interesting, like, because when you there's like records of the Assyrian kings and the Babylonian kings, and when they refer to the kings of Israel, they sometimes have slightly different pronunciations of their name or spellings, so they give them different, names than you'd expect. That's why a lot of times the initial king's name becomes almost like the official title, because they'll continue to refer to the kings of a certain nation after, just like Caesar. There was a guy, Julius Caesar, was his last name. Then everyone after that, it became like the title of being emperor. And to the point that even the Russian emperor was called a Tsar, which is just Caesar, which is a corruption of Caesar in their language. So he said to the watchman, go set a watchman. Let him declare what he sees. A watchman, I remember growing up reading prophecy and watching TV with Bible people on it and trying to tell. And the theme of the watchman is a very important one that comes up. Well, not much in the book of Revelation. Certainly it does in Jesus' teaching. When he says things like, watch ye therefore, for if the good men of the house had known at what hour the thief would come, he would not have suffered his house to be broken up. So we are called at times to be watchers. Now, I remember I had the sense when I was a kid that prophecy was like this thing where you analyze the newspaper for biblical references or something. Like that's the way it felt. And it felt like that was what people were doing. It was like, everything that was happening in the world somehow related to prophecy. It was weird. And in a sense, the thing is, I don't think that's right, but it is right in a certain sense in that, of course, everything's kind of like prophecy. That's why I said the coronavirus thing, part of that was, the masks. The mask and now the shot, it's kind of like a mark of the beast. It's not the mark of the beast, but they're using it the same way. It's the same thing. It's like no one will be able to participate in certain things unless they have this mark or whatever. I mean, because like a vaccine, you don't need to be vaccinated. I mean, because here's the thing. Illinois, fortunately, our governor, though not at all a good governor, in my opinion, is not a fool. though, not a complete fool by any measure, and was intelligent in some ways, and moderate in many others. So in Illinois, we don't have any. No one's talking about vaccine passports, as far as I know. And not in our state, because it wouldn't fly here. Illinois is too Midwest. Like I said, the liberalism of Chicago is a bit different, than like other places, like California. There you go. I mean, now that we don't have plenty of the same kind of them, but I think the whole place slants to one side. A lot of that is people that would not be on board with a lot of the nonsense. But, anyways, the point was, what am I point about? Hey, you dummy. The problem is I start mentioning things that aren't. I was telling my wife, it's like, what'll happen to me? And it's a digression, but whatever. I'm going to get one simple thing. While I'm on my way to get one simple thing, I think, I'm only going to get socks. I'll see something. Why don't I quickly turn off the bathroom light? I'll go in the bathroom, turn it off. Oh, look over there. I forgot to put that away. Why don't I grab that? On my way to get the socks, I'll put it away. And then maybe, actually, honestly, by that point, I forgot about the socks. I wish I could say it took longer to forget. It doesn't. I have extremely small but fast RAM in this machine. That's why I feel like it. All right. So, prophecy. I know I was talking about prophecy in my youth, watching this unfold. I'll go back to that because that's an important point. The idea that we just look at the newspaper and there is the whole point I was talking about is the reason everything you can kind of relate to prophecy, not everything, but many things, just like in the pandemic, like the example I gave. It's like I can inform my understanding about the way the mask mandate is working and other stuff, things like vaccines. Well, my point was that we don't have a passport. So I go around. I don't need a vaccine passport. I don't even need to be vaccinated because no one asks. In my area, when we didn't have people, when I go to the big town here, which is like a town of 30,000 people, right? Not a big town, but big out here. I go there, I go shopping, I go to the Walmart. Walk in, and from what my brother is very outspoken. I've tried to be more just quiet about it, but because I'm out too much. I can't spend hours of the day out arguing with people about everything. Well, he told me he talked to some people about it because they stopped. At first, they were asking people, why aren't you wearing a mask? And they were told to ask that. The Walmart people told them, ask, why aren't you wearing a mask? Well, Frank said he talked to someone who did that, and they said people got angry. So we stopped. And so nobody asked. Everyone stopped asking, do you have a mask? And I don't think anyone will ever dare ask, are you vaccinated? There are signs everywhere saying you can only come in if you're vaccinated. Personally, I'm just waiting for them to realize to add to their... Everything is on a delay. Like yesterday, I heard that news report again about all the hundreds of thousands of people that died of heart attacks because they didn't seek medical attention. And they're blaming it on the coronavirus. As if the virus put that policy into place. As if the virus terrified people for a year. As if the virus... the virus did that? No. They grabbed... The scandal was they grabbed a hold of that story. They pumped it up. They pumped up the fear, and they killed 500,000 Americans with fear. Literally, it was like 500,000 people died of heart attacks and strokes that they believed they probably could have survived. More than died of coronavirus. And at the time last summer, I knew that was going to happen. Everyone, I heard about it. I know about it. Why is the news just finding out? No curiosity. They were only interested in destroying the last president, and they got their wish. They don't care who they hurt in the process. They don't care anything. They were delighted to have this pandemic. And I can't wait till the chickens come home to roost. They will, damn it. They better. They're trying to pretend like they didn't really F up. Like they're trying to, I heard them on the radio, they're blaming the deaths on the virus when it's purely a byproduct of media scare tactics. People were so terrified that they didn't go to the doctor for fear of having coronavirus. A much less dangerous thing than a damn heart attack. I tell you, you get a heart attack and you get the coronavirus, you know which one's going to kill you? More likely? But then but when the media is lying to people, people still think millions of people died in America from the coronavirus. Even though they don't know anyone who died. I don't know anyone who died. I mean, I'm sure some people do, of course. People die of the flu, people die of all kinds of things. And like I said in my video, don't want to hurt anybody whose family member died of a preventable disease, because it's preventable. We didn't have to have this coronavirus thing. That's the tragedy. That got out, and then all these people died. But everything they did to fight it was counterproductive. And that's manifestly true. It's all and they need to be made to pay. They need to be made to held account. I mean, it's not right to say, but I mean, I would love to see, no, I won't say that. I wouldn't love it. I mean, but there's a part that feels like, hey, remember public flogging? Remember public torture? Sometimes I feel like that would be worth bringing back. Tarring and feathering, maybe. Other forms of public humiliation for particularly odious persons. Like Fauci should be tarred and feathered. Maybe have a couple of fingers removed. Slowly. I think so. I mean, he's caused so much suffering. An absolute jackass. Sorry. Jackass is a perfectly normal thing to say. In fact, didn't it just say here, ass? A chariot with asses? And if the head of our CDC is a jackass, I guess that's no surprise either. I should remember, I can only say jackass as much as I like, and I can say ass and feel good. I'm not being profane. He's a jackass. Well, now we see covering up his own tracks. It's his virus. Oh, it's your virus. Isn't that funny? Essentially, it is. I know all about it. It's not really, but Anyways, point is, we see those things happening. Marks of the beast. Okay, well, it's not the mark of the beast, but you see the authority. You can learn from it. And so, yeah, some things happen in time and news. You read in the news, and you're like, wow, that might relate to prophecy. A lot of it is us reading too much into the news, though. Like I say, I remember all that stuff about microchips being the mark of the beast in the 80s and 90s. Oh, microchips are going to be implanted in your forehead, and it's going to be the mark of the beast. Because how else could they prevent you from buying and selling? I don't know, just by saying, where's your mark of the beast? You know what I mean? Just by saying, where's your mark? I mean, they probably won't call it the mark of the beast, but let's say, where's your seal of God? Where's your mask? And obviously is nothing compared, because people don't feel strongly. People thought the coronavirus was real. Imagine when they think that Satan is really God. They'll be so stunned they won't sell it to you. They'll just be like, they won't be able to operate their machinery. They'll be so freaked out at the fact of you having that opinion. I mean, some people were like that, because there's a lot of low information people that are not things happen and they just take what's given to them. That's why there's a song I'm really passionate about that I'm working on called The Press in America. Because they are traitorous scum. That's the line. I say over and over again. They lie, they lie, they lie. They lie, they lie, they lie. I want to expose them. I just want to expose them to this really nasty song about them, actually. I just want to say my 2 cents, get my fist right in their teeth, That's all. when you have the power to punch hard, you should. You know? I'm a clever songwriter. I never did much with it. I always just entirely devoted myself to turning the scriptures into music. It was always my passion. It was my only inspiration. It's like this year is the only time I've ever in my life been inspired to write music that wasn't purely out of the scriptures. But in some way, I look at it, a lot of it is like my own, it's like I found my muse, and in a sense, it's my own, this is the scripture according to Paul. I do think of it like that. As far as it's like, this is God's Spirit in me also speaking to my generation. This is my prophecy. My songs. I feel strongly about them like that. I do look at them seriously like that. And so of course we can learn, all these things can point to things that we see. But we don't want to overdo it and misinterpret things. I think the example I was going to use is, like the microchips. It's like, oh, this microchip could be used. You know what I mean? It would be like talking about masks before last year and saying, like, someday they could put masks on us and say, like, imagine if in 2019 someone said to you, you know what, they're going to force everyone in America to wear masks in a year because of fear of, and they were going to mandate. I don't know, you might believe it. I would have sounded pretty far-fetched to me, I'll tell you that. And if you had said it would be like a mark of the beast, and you would describe specifically how, because the thing was, it was like the mark of the beast, but I was able to get around it, and I think the mark of the beast will be somewhat circumventable, because it doesn't say, here's the thing, no man can buy or sell except they have the mark. It's like saying no one can fly without a vaccine. It's technically true, but on a certain level, is it? It's like, well, what if I charter a private plane? What if my buddy owns a plane? Can I still fly? Well, yeah. And it's like, well, okay, I can't buy or sell. That means I can't go to Walmart, but can I go to the back door? Can I go to the dumpster? There's a lot of other options. There are that we have options besides straightforward. The Lord will make a way. I never worry about stuff like that. Like, I always remember, I sometimes I admit I'm a person who gets frustrated, and sometimes I get apprehensive about the future. I've raised 8 children on a poverty income. I've lived that way for 21 years, and more than that actually, and it is at times stressful. As far as it can get to you, because you live constantly under threat of, But the truth is, we're always under threat of annihilation. We're just not aware of it. We don't know, like, any moment something could fall on us and destroy us. I mean, occasionally people do become aware of these things, and it causes them even to have psychosis about it, because they get too caught up in the thought, like, yeah, well, that could happen. That could happen, but it's not happening, and there's nothing I can do about it. I mean, I guess I could avoid a meteor by stepping one step to the left. But what if I stepped into a meteor instead by stepping one step to the left? And what if I thought, I'll be safer out of fear? I said, I'll be safer if I move my chair like this, and then all of a sudden, bam, catches me in the temple. A little tiny rock from the sky, just enough to make it through to finish me off. Just bam. Go set a watchman and let him declare what he seeth. The point of watch, we need to be watching. I watch. I've never, like I said, I wouldn't be taught, if I have a track record of not being an alarmist, and I'm not sounding alarms, but yeah, we should be aware. I'm certainly, you should never be slack concerning your work. Okay. The world is, whether or not Jesus returns to the world in our lifetime, we will return to Jesus in our lifetime, at the end of our life anyways, right? We are going to see the Lord. We are going to stand before the judgment seat of Christ and give an answer. And I want to be able to say With everything you gave me, I did to the utmost of my ability everything I could do. You know, and you gave me your so many talents, and here's what I got for you in return. Maybe I didn't get 100% return. Maybe I only got like 95 or 50. I don't know. You gave me 10, and here you got 13. You know, well, at least, you know, hey, it's not as good as the guy who took 10 and brought back 10, but I'm glad you made some use and profit for me. I probably should have invested less in you, maybe. I don't know. That's just a little humility as far as, like, I'm not going to claim to be operating on all cylinders. I don't. You know, I would like to serve the Lord better. I'd like to serve everyone better, unfortunately. Like, I don't serve anyone. I don't serve my wife as well as I should. I don't serve my children as well as I should. I don't serve my extended family as well as I should. And I don't serve the Lord as well as I should. Because I serve so many. Unfortunately, I serve them all very poorly. All right. We're going to just talk about the Watchmen more tomorrow. Because this, you know, Babylon is fallen, is fallen. That's almost like, you know, why did they say that in Revelation? Why does it say Babylon is fallen, that great city? For she made all nations drink the wine of the wrath of her fornication. Actually, I was going to change that line. The wrathful wine of her fornication. Because it's so much... It took me a long time to figure out that that's how that should change. That's right out of Revelation. And we'll talk about that and more. Wrap up this chapter. There's not a lot. Well, whatever. Anyways, we'll wrap up the burden of the Desert of the Sea, going probably the burden the next one tomorrow. Thanks for joining me in this study. I do love talking about the Word, and if I was better at it, I would love to be able to be that good. I think if I get more sleep, I'd be better too. Thanks for joining us today. We'll be back again, etc., tomorrow.
Faces shall be as flames. Behold, the day of Yahweh cometh, cruel both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate, and he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it. For the stars of heaven and Orion shall not cause their light to shine. The sun darkened in his going forth, and the moonlight shall not shine. And I will punish the world for their evil, and the wicked for their iniquity. And I will cause to cease the arrogancy of the proud,